Detail. For those who are more biologically inclined, this book also has some very interesting questions about how polymerases are seen, how other proteins are seen. There's some really interesting details in the replication of these viruses and these viroids and virusoids that make it up. I'll just tell you my own interaction with this. I've been a virologist amongst everything for the last 50 years or more. I studied phage, I studied tumor viruses, I studied human leukemia viruses and AIDS. I've certainly become an expert on COVID in the recent past. But at various meetings, I would talk about the full range of organisms that are out there. And early on in the 70s, one of the guys who was there was Theodore Diener. He got the Nobel Prize, or if he didn't, I think he did actually, for discovering viroids, these potato spindle viruses. And all of his life, he worked to try to understand, are these left over from early life forms, or are these really derived, like many viruses, from animal and plant genes that have been rearranged and now get transmitted as viruses? And he never was able to resolve that question. But he went on to create a whole new field, which is currently exploding because of the DNA sequence revolution, because of the AI revolution, because of the mRNA use for vaccines, for treatment of cancer, and for gene therapy. So it's been a long story. It's been sort of a recurring motif throughout my life. And I've been privileged to be working with Kolo and the team that I have here in the US to write about these, to learn a lot more about this. There's a lot more to learn. Right now, if this were an iceberg, we not even know the tip that's above the surface. We might know 5% of what there is to learn about these fascinating organisms. But a good primer, and one that should be generally accessible, is this book. There's a lot to learn from these little things. The more you study, it's like studying a grain of sand. You can learn the whole universe and what a molecule is, what bonds are, what quantum mechanics is. You can learn how the universe is built from a grain of sand. Well, these are more or less the equivalent of a grain of sand in biology. There's a tremendous amount. And to integrate with our own bodies and cause diseases that they do, one thing we really didn't talk about is how do these things cause disease? And I would say that it's an open question. We're just beginning to understand something called regulatory RNA, how the structure of our RNA can actually control which genes, which proteins, which RNAs are turned on and off. And sometimes there's a whole new set of drugs called silencing RNA drugs. Little bits of genetic information bind to and stick to things that are necessary for life, messenger RNAs, and enzymes chew it up. So there's a whole program called DICER, we talk about it here in this book, that some people think that copies of this RNA are chewed up into small little fragments that deliberately go out and knock out the RNA that is necessary to make an enzyme necessary for the plant to live. So it's called RNA interference, interfering RNAs done by microRNAs, done by small RNAs, done by silencing RNAs. We're just in the beginning to understand that, and viroids are the key, part of the key to do that. Also, some of these make proteins, and those proteins are known to mess up things as well. Other ones, like hepatitis D, can just simply outcompete. Remember, they're using the same enzymes that are used to copy cells. Well, some of these things are really efficient, and hepatitis D makes a huge amount of RNA of its own, and that means you can't make as much as your own RNA, and maybe you're just outcompeted. the ability to replicate cells, and that's another pathogenic mechanism. I think what we're going to uncover, and we're just again at the beginning of this, a whole world of pathogenesis, which will be important for understanding human and plant and animal diseases as well. We didn't talk about the importance of this for animal disease, but now that we know that these viroids are there, these virusoids are there, the question is, what disease are they causing our pets and our livestock? And what diseases are there in the natural world that may be coming to get us? We know the natural world is full of things that are adapted for their own niche. When they get into us, we're not protected and cause trouble. We've just gone through that with COVID. We may go through that again with viruses and viroids. Another reason to pay attention to it, another reason to buy and to read my book. Our book, I should say. Koloman, my book on this topic. Thank you all very much.